By Trumpian standards, it's not a big deal. If any other president said anything like that in this day and age, it would be a big deal. But I'm listening to the words. He's not thrilled with it. You know, with Trump, everything is always to extremes. It's horrible, it's great, or something like that. The key thing to me, and I think it should be the key thing to the markets, is whether there's follow-on on this, or this turns out to be a one-off, off-the-cuff remark. And when he got off camera with Joe, his Secretary of the Treasury or his CEA chief, says, you know, it's not such a great idea to browbeat the Fed. He's not very good at taking advice, so I don't know what's gonna be the next step. But if it stops here, I think it's going to be you know, a ripple in the pond. If
Ken, you agree?
Yeah, well, so far it sounds like he's just speaking to his therapist. You know, I'm worrying about this. I know I shouldn't do anything about it. But it is my big concern, certainly over the next couple of years. What if its polls are going down? The economy's not doing well. He's, you know, tiptoeing into this territory is a concern. So far, the Fed is one of the few institutions he's treated as sacrosanct, made pretty strong appointments. And, you know, the market has looked at everything else and said, okay, well, as long as the Fed's good, we're good. But it's a concern.
Steve, you said earlier that it was yesterday's story to look at this, but you agree in terms of looking forward, trying to figure out what it means not only for the Fed, but what it signals beyond.
I don't agree with Blinder and Rogoff for like the first time in a long time. I think it's a much bigger deal than the people who I know in the economic establishment are making it out to be. I think this is one of those dam break things that people ought to sort of build the ramparts on. I think that once you start down this path, it's a slippery slope. And I personally think people ought to be more outraged than they are.
Could it be that's because you're a journalist and not really one of those guys?
It could be. It could be.
It could be.
I'm an idiot. I don't know anything.
No. Just hyperbolic. And
it could be I'm hyperbolic. It may be. Maybe I want to exaggerate the story.
I'm glad you go up against Rogoff and Blinder.
I don't care who they are.
I know.
Just
I know
they
that.
got Nobel Prizes and all kinds of PhD degrees. I think it's a big deal, and I'm sort of surprised.
I'm glad you do.
Because I will say, Joe, Michigan yesterday said it was no big deal. And I think the interesting thing was the comment made, I think, by Alan, by Trumpian standards. Yeah. Yesterday, I used the word benumbed, and Melissa came back to me with the word inured. And by the way, inured was in the New York Times crossword puzzle yesterday, just by coincidence. So I'm just saying, I'm not sure that's the right way to think about it. But all right, I'll rest.
Got to grade these things on the curve.
I'm going to take a breath now. It's okay.
Yeah.
I like Alan, and I like Ken a lot. I think it's a bigger deal than this. I think people ought to stand up and talk about it so it doesn't continue to happen.
Do you remember when
well, they kind of both made that point.
This is totally different.
This is okay as long as there's not a follow-on.
Right, but how does there not a follow-on if everybody says it's okay?
Santoli, this is totally different, and I guess you're allowed to influence policy. You remember when Tom Wheeler came into the FCC as a complete net neutrality opponent, and he got a talking to, I guess, a tongue lashing by Obama. He went 100. Now this is, I mean, the Fed should be totally independent. I understand that.
It's an executive branch.
I understand that. I understand that. But I mean, all the qualifiers he threw in. He's a good man. I'm going to let him do what he wants to do. But if you're just asking me, I would rather not have rates going up.
As I was saying,
Ken made a good point to that. He said if this is just easing into it carefully, then it's a cautionary tale and it should be pushed back against, right, Ken?
I mean, if I'm getting a mortgage, I wish rates would stay low, Ken. I'll say that again. If I'm getting a mortgage, I know the housing market's hot and I should want rates to go up. But for me, I'd rather have. I like low interest rates. I mean, that's not saying that
honestly,
much.
as long as the economy is looking as strong as it is, I don't think it's a big concern. But if the economy starts weakening, that's when he could get really upset. And the Fed has to keep pushing things till where inflation isn't rising.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.